So much. Okay, so recording just started. So thank you so much for this introduction. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm in Washington State. It is 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. here. So it's, midday. I am very happy not see, since everyone is off camera, I don't know, see everyone here. Thank you for joining. And the topic is culturally responsive teaching, and it is very dear to my heart. I do a lot of presentations on culturally responsive teaching and inclusive pedagogy. So I'm very excited to be here today, sharing this best practices, strategies, tips that you can incorporate in your classrooms and in your work pretty much right away. My name is Ekaterina Stoops, and I work at Columbia Basin College. It's a college in Washington. So I split my time between Seattle. I'm originally from Seattle, and then Columbia Basin College is in Pasco. And I am the director for teaching and learning at Columbia Basin College. So like I already said, I will be sharing lots of practical tips, suggestions, and things that you can incorporate in your classrooms right away. We will talk a little bit about biases, unconscious biases in teaching, and how they manifest themselves and how they can impact the way we work with our students. I'll share several examples. But before I do that, I wanted to invite you to participate in an activity via chat. Completely optional. You don't have to do that. But I just thought, since I'm talking about engagement and culture responsive teaching, would be fun to do something engaging. So here's my the two ideas that I would like to invite you to kind of two activities that I would like you to invite to participate in. So the first one is just a very quick introduction, 2 sentences maximum. Everybody can see each other's names, maybe where you teach and what you do, disciplines you teach, or if you don't teach, what you do on your campuses. So that's kind of a short biography, because I'm a huge believer in networking. So it could be a great networking opportunity for all of us. And the second one, again, optional. You don't have to do it unless you want to. As I start sharing those ideas and strategies, if you hear something that is really resonating with you, maybe like some aha moments, maybe just drop a very quick comment in the chat. Or also, if you're hearing some things and you're like thinking, oh my gosh, I do similar activities, or I do other activities that work really well and they align with this concept, with the culture responsive teaching pedagogy. And please type in the comments to share with your colleagues, because my goal is not to just share what I do, but also hear from you. And if you could, share aha moments, things that are resonating with you, and also teaching tips and best practices from your own classrooms in the chat, that would be wonderful. I probably won't be able to see them in real time because I'm in share mode. It's hard for me to do both, but everyone else will be able to see and engage. So thank you for considering it. Again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Okay, let's get started with this topic of culturally responsive teaching. And I will start with the definition, just very quickly. So culture responsive teaching is a pedagogy that recognizes the critical importance of identifying and including students' cultural experiences and references in all aspects of teaching and learning. But I would also say my personal kind of add on to this definition is that not just cultural experiences, but also personal and professional experiences as well. I work at community college level, and many students who come to community college enrolling in community colleges are adults. So they're perhaps changing careers, or they have part-time or even full-time jobs, and they're studying for a degree, and they already bring so just rich experiences, diverse experiences, professional, cultural, and personal. So that would be something I would probably add to this definition. And why do we really need to care about our students' personal, professional, and cultural experiences? So why is cultural responsive teaching important? Well, it is important because our students' experiences, cultural, professional, personal, they impact the way or affect the way they receive information, perceive information, the way I have this really horrible allergies. I apologize, I will be coughing sometimes. So the way they communicate. So their experiences really shape their beliefs and also way of thinking, and how they approach their work as students, classroom management, things like this. So that all impact their overall success in an academic setting. And if we as educators, we really need to try to create those inclusive learning experiences for our students, so they have opportunities to engage in a variety of different ways. And how do you go about implementing cultural responsive teaching strategies? Because cultural responsive teaching is a pedagogy, which means that there are so many different things that align with this pedagogy, with this concept. There are so many best practices, so many different strategies, and sometimes it's kind of easy to get lost because there's so much. So my suggestion would be to start with probably looking into our own unconscious biases. And I have several slides just on unconscious biases. I'll talk about them a little bit more. Really understanding or actually acknowledging the fact that we all have biases. It's just a part of being a human. And but really engaging in that reflection on how our unconscious biases may impact the way we teach, we work with our students. And like I said, I'll share very practical examples in a minute. Then, of course, the second step is educating ourselves on what is culture responsive teaching, the strategies, the tips, the teaching tips, and the different techniques that we can implement in our classrooms. And the third step is just try them out. Choose one or two per term and just test them out, see what works, what doesn't. So that's kind of the steps that I think would be very doable for anyone to do. So let's talk a little bit about unconscious biases. So start with the definition, as always. Unconscious bias is this unintentional bias, that negative feeling or maybe a stereotype that we may hold about specific group of people. And in most cases, our biases are unconscious. We're not really aware that we have them. So it is very important to kind of acknowledge that we all have them. But just don't stop there. Really engage in this self-reflection on what we do, how we do it, whether it's working or not working in our classrooms. And that would be an important step. So here I'm going to share several examples of unconscious biases that I found in this resource. It's called Awareness of Implicit Biases. It's a great, it's not even an article, it's kind of a repository, has lots of different resources. I was looking for examples of unconscious biases that pertain to teaching and learning, like, classrooms. And I found this great resource, and I picked 6 examples of unconscious biases for a variety of different reasons that really resonated with me. And I would like to talk about that a little bit, because there are very common situations that happen on campuses. So for my first example, instructors may assume that certain students would know that students would know how or where to seek help if they're struggling. Although students at higher risk of struggling, for struggling academically, in many cases, they're actually not aware that they are struggling, or if they're aware, they are not comfortable asking for help. So if we assume that students would know when they're struggling, or if they're struggling, that is an assumption. And also, even if they realize that they're struggling, say midterm somewhere, you know, looking at their grades, they're kind of like, yeah, we're struggling. Our assumption that they just know where to go to seek help, get those resources, or even if they know where to get that help, sometimes they're not comfortable getting that help. So definitely, I worked as an advisor for some time, and my students sometimes would tell me, you know, yes, we know that we have tutoring services on our campus, but I'm not really struggling that much. I don't think I need that help, because, you know, maybe somebody else is struggling even more. So why would I, you know, use somebody's space or something like that? Or sometimes I would hear students saying, well, we didn't really realize that we're doing so bad in our course, in our class, until until we got the final grade. And when, you know, when I talked to the instructor is like, I don't know how they didn't realize that they're struggling, because their grades were pretty much, you know, not great throughout the term. But it is real. It is really, it's common when students don't understand that they're struggling until the very end, or don't feel comfortable getting resources. So another example, instructors may expect students who speak with certain accents to be poor writers. Again, it's an assumption. It's an assumption. Just because somebody speaks with an accent doesn't mean that they're poor writers. Also, another example, students with substandard writing abilities may be stereotyped as lacking intellectual ability. It's a horrible bias. At some point in my career, I was teaching ESL classes, and I had students who immigrated to the United States, and they were lawyers, doctors in their countries. And they were in my classes learning English, and learning a foreign language is a process, but it just doesn't mean that they lack intellectual abilities because they're learning another language. I'm Russian, so I have a lot of friends who live in Europe, and I have friends who speak 4 or 5 languages. I have a friend who is from Belgium. She's bilingual, then she teaches English as a foreign language, and then she speaks German. And, you know, different languages should have different levels of proficiency. Her German is not that great, but again, thinking that she lacks some intellectual, you know, there's something wrong with her intellect because she doesn't speak great German, that is absolutely not true. 3 more examples. Instructors may treat students with physical disabilities as if they have mental disabilities and require some, I don't know, special accommodations. So students who are affiliated with a particular identity group may be treated as experts on issues related to that group. In my last example, students of certain groups may be expected to have certain participation style. Maybe if you're from certain culture, you're viewed as, you know, you're a quiet type, or you're an argumentative type, or gender oriented, and that's simply not true. All right, so solutions. What is it that, you know, now that we all know that we have biases, unconscious biases, and what do we do about that, right? So acknowledging them is the first step. It's very important. And But that's not enough. We really need to look into strategies that would help address those biases. And again, I have this great resource, Create an Inclusive College Classrooms. I'm using examples from that resource. Here I have two really good examples how you can address them in a really creative way. For example, that bias from the previous slide, students will seek help when they're struggling with the class. All right, so it's a bias. So students don't always feel comfortable asking for help. In order to address this issue, for example, you can request meetings with your students as problem arise, or even better, make office hours a part of your course requirement. For example, after the first assignment in the beginning of the term, you can ask students to meet with you, could be office hours. And if you teach large classes, it could be maybe small groups or one-on-one with each student if you teach smaller classes. But this way, there's no stigma attached to going to office hours. It's kind of a requirement for everyone. And this is a great opportunity to really build those relationships with your students right from the beginning. And after that, students will feel much more comfortable coming to you if they have any struggles, if they're struggling, and if they need help. So another example very quickly, poor writing suggests limited intellectual abilities. Absolutely not. It is really misleading to equate students' writing skills, especially academic writing, with intellectual abilities. Students have varying degrees of experience with academic writing. It's true. It's really true. So you, as their instructor, you have that responsibility to be explicit about your expectations, share perhaps some good model, like do good model and share some examples of good writing for specific assignments, perhaps done by other students, obviously names removed. Also, it's important to connect students to campus resources from the beginning. I would suggest perhaps spending some time and maybe inviting professionals from those services like tutoring, academic success, counseling. Maybe they could do a 5-minute introduction. They can record videos and you can post them, like, 1 to 2 minute videos, and you can post them in your LMS, in your courses if you teach online or hybrid, where those professionals talk about how they can help students. And that would be a great way to make those connections for the students and help them build those relationships. All right, so the second half of my presentation is about culture responsive teaching strategies. And like I already mentioned, culture responsive teaching is a pedagogy, which means that just so many different things you can do and different activities, different strategies that would align really well with the culture responsive teaching pedagogy. I chose this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strategies, and that's what I will discuss today. But please, please, please know that there's just so many more, and I just don't have time for everything in a 50-minute presentation. So strategies that I decided to focus on today is building community. So we'll talk about how you can do it and why it's important. A little bit about diversifying your teaching approaches. I'll share very practical examples. Another concept that I like is inviting students to be co-participants and co-creators. Again, I'll share very practical examples. And all of that means that you're changing your role from being the main source of information, that person who stands in front of the students and lectures, to being more of a facilitator, moderator. And hopefully we'll have time, but it's the last but not the least, setting expectations. Hopefully I will have time to share some TILT templates that based on the backward course design approach that my team, a team of instructional designers created for our faculty at Columbia Basin College. Templates are designed for online classes for LMS, and they're on Canvas Commons. If you use Canvas, then you can easily access them. So hopefully I'll have time to show you those templates, because they address that strategy that is all about setting clear expectations, what that means and how you can do that. Okay, so let's start with the first one, building community. And let's just say you don't have time to experiment with all these different strategies because you're already busy, but you kind of want to choose one. And I would say this would be the one to implement first. Because without feeling safe, without that community, students can't really be successful. So it is really, really important, especially in the online classes, because this complaint from students, we feel isolated, we don't really know who our peers are, and we're taking this class, we don't really have those connections with the instructor. That is, unfortunately something that happens sometimes, and there are very good strategies to address them. So let's discuss those strategies. I am going to I divided them by modalities. These ones work really well for online classes, hybrid as well, but mostly online if you don't have this direct contact with your students. So the first week of your term is absolutely crucial. And I am always still struggling with this, like, do I spend the whole class, like my first class or my first week, just delivering content, because there's just so much to do. There's just so many things that students need to learn. Or I spend the first class or the first week, because it's an online class, the first week building community building, helping students build relationship. And I would say focusing on building a relationship will set the tone for your entire term and will really help your students to be successful throughout the term. So simple things anyone can do. Recording a video announcement, and I emphasize video, not your typical written announcement, a video announcement, and posting them in your course. So students would want to see your face. You can talk a little bit about yourself, your biography, your hobbies, things you like, also about your class, important class, maybe expectations, communication norms, anything that you feel students need to know right away. You can communicate through that video announcement. Another strategy, you can do that in addition to the video announcement, or, I would say in addition would be great. So starting your class with, well, I call it Zoom. Everybody uses different video conferencing platforms, but just for simplicity, let's just call them Zoom. So you can start your the first week with this synchronous Zoom session. And I know students are take online classes for a reason. Not everyone can make it to this synchronous sessions, but you can still do that for students who can make it, and then record the session and post in your LMS for the ones who couldn't make it. And during that Zoom session, you can do some fun icebreakers, again, relationship building exercises, talk about your course, important things that they need to know about your course. Also, another strategy is to set up an introduce yourself discussion board activity and make it a requirement for the first week of your online class. And don't forget to introduce yourself. And maybe there, where on that discussion board, you would, instead of just writing it up and posting it as a written post, do a video introduction. Like in Canvas, you can easily do a recording just within your course. And again, talk about your hobbies, talk about things that don't just pertain to your class. And other students will feel the same way, then they will be more comfortable sharing about themselves. So that would be a great opportunity to build those connections. I would say if you're teaching an online class, maybe doing all three is a good idea. But if it's too much, pick one or two. For in-person classes or hybrid classes, similar, but obviously you would be doing that during your first class. So yes, and probably your first class would probably be all about building a relationship and talking about important class expectations, but it is really important. And it's that important part of community building. So do some, again, fun icebreakers. Think about how those activities would lead to a productive and welcoming classroom environment. It really will set the tone for your entire class. And also during the first class, it's important to talk about your class expectations, for example, grading policies. That would be also a great time for all of you, students, to maybe work together on communication norms and expectations. Instead of you just telling your students what you will be expecting from them, maybe work on those communication, like it's called netiquette, together as a group. Yes, it will take time, but again, it's a relationship building exercise, and netiquettes are always very, very important. All right, so another strategy that I would like to focus on today is diversifying your teaching approaches, really going beyond tests and final exams, or exams in general, as the only way to assess student knowledge. And many instructors like to do projects, collaborative assignments, group discussions, group work activities, case studies, real case examples, peer reviews on a weekly basis. So for your students, participating in those activities each week would be a great opportunity to practice those concepts that they're learning in your class. For you, it's an opportunity to evaluate, to assess whether they're learning what they're supposed to be learning, and through the feedback, making those assignments, activities graded, you would, providing that feedback would be a powerful teaching strategy in itself. So through the feedback, they would know how to improve for the next assignment, or maybe you would allow multiple submissions for the same assignment. And here I found this really great examples from a repository from the Center of Innovative Teaching, Indiana University. They have really great examples of what can be done by disciplines. I'll just read a couple. For example, in nursing, you could provide a case study of a patient and ask students to assess and create a plan of care. It's a great opportunity for group work. Perhaps you would actually set up some groups if you're teaching online. Again, any learning management system would allow group setups, and students could work on those in groups, or it could be an individual assignment. In business, develop a business or a marketing plan or a sales plan of an imaginary or real company. And here's the key. Students should be able to really choose a company they want to work on. And that really aligns with cultural responsive teaching. Maybe they would choose a company from their community, and they would work on the sales or marketing or whatever business plan for that specific company. So I don't know, computer science. Ask students to troubleshoot a problematic piece of code, develop a website or an app to solve a particular problem. And again, perhaps would be great. I think it would be great to give students a choice of the problem that they want to solve, instead of just giving them a list of problems, because then it really aligns with culture responsive teaching, because they can choose a problem that really resonates with them, that they really want to solve. Public affairs courses that public. So for example, you can give them this assignment. Consider how community agency may be impacted by a particular challenge, like budget cuts, infrastructure outage. And again, perhaps you could give students an opportunity to choose an agency or a company or community that they want to work on. So lots of ideas. And here I have an example of a discussion board activity that they found. And what I really liked about this example is how questions for this discussion board activity are worded. So let's look at this question. So it's for week 1, it's an online class, or maybe it's a hybrid class, I don't know. And the topic is disability explained. Great questions. So the first one, what is your definition of disability? What does disability mean to you? How did you come to understand disability this way? What experience do you have with a disability? Why did you decide to take a course? So the questions are not like, please, give me a definition of disability from a textbook. No, the questions are worded in such a way that allows students to reflect on their personal experiences. And that aligns so well with cultural responsive teaching, because students come with diverse experiences, diverse perspectives, and wording questions like this really helps them bring the authentic selves to class. So I just like those examples, and I'm sharing. Now, that what I mentioned with diversify new teaching format, the whole concept actually implies that students will be co-creators. So you're not the only one supplying content. Perhaps if you like to use case studies in your classes, perhaps toward the, say, midterm, not in the beginning, but you could set up, ask students to work in groups, and they could create their own case studies. Then you would just start this repository of really great case studies examples. If you're teaching this same course for a long time, you would collect a really great repository. And it's a great opportunity for students to work in groups and do some, not just fun activities, but very meaningful and important work together. Another example that I already mentioned, in the beginning of the term, that first week, maybe students would work together as a group on classroom norms, expectations. It's called netiquette. Of course, you would guide their work and their discussion, but it's a collaborative work instead of just you giving them the document that you created before. So things like this. And here I want to share more examples from a course called cancer biology. Here's a little bit of history why I'm sharing these examples. So several months ago, I myself participated in a workshop facilitated by a company called Academic Impressions. By the way, amazing company, has amazing resources. So the facilitator who came, we invited her to do this workshop, and she was sharing how she redesigned her cancer biology class. So she had been teaching her cancer biology class a certain way for many years, and then some point she decided to completely redesign it, and she just was sharing before and after. So as you can see here, the outcomes for the course, and I know nothing about cancer biology, but the outcomes are pretty straightforward. For example, the first one is identify the hallmarks of cancer, explain the role of each in the development of cancer. The second one, identify factors that promote the development of cancer. Well, very straightforward, and I just don't know anything about this discipline, but this is what she did. So one of the first strategies she incorporated was a capstone. And her capstone, that final assignment, was so creative. When I was participating in her workshop as a participant, I was just so impressed by what she did and how she did it. So I decided to incorporate these examples in my presentation. I'm sharing all the links to the research. She did a research. I guess I can share in the chat. But anyway, so she did this before and after analysis, and now it's just doing my highlights, my aha moments, my takeaways. So the first piece that she redesigned was the final assessment. She introduced the capstone. So basically, by the end of the course, students would need to create artifacts to explain cancer biology to a person who doesn't have any foundational knowledge of cancer biology. It could be a cancer patient, it could be a family member, and students were instructed to work in groups to create a public work using any medium of their choosing to demonstrate their understanding and add meaning to hallmarks of cancer. So it wasn't just a 1 week thing. They were working on that project for quite some time in groups. And this is a couple of examples of what some groups came up with. So one group created the Naughty Cells booklet full of images, some research, and things that demonstrate their understanding of hallmarks of cancer. Another group created the benefits of soy booklet. And again, every group was super creative and they came up with their own things. But the target audience for those artifacts would be people who wouldn't have any foundational knowledge of cancer biology. Excuse me, I need to. So the point of that was so students could explain very difficult concepts using very simple language. And that was really, by doing that, they were meeting the course outcomes, and they were developing those competencies that are so important that align with communication and those soft skills, being able to talk to a patient using language that is simple and understandable. Another activity that she incorporated in her course, excuse me, is blogging. So in addition to blogging about cancer biology throughout the term and other related topics that they were learning through the textbooks, she also asked students to, or encouraged students to share the personal stories. Unfortunately, cancer is a disease that many people are familiar with illness, and pretty much everyone has stories. So students were encouraged to share those personal stories, their unique experiences and perspectives. So, all right, so now we have time. I am glad that we have this time. And I want to talk a little bit about setting clear expectations. Setting clear expectations means that we communicate everything that we want students to know explicitly through rubrics. I am a huge advocate of using rubrics for both graded and non-graded assignments. Those communication norms and expectations is an important piece of communication, especially in online classes, but also providing clear, very clear instructions on assignments. And here I'm going to show you 2 templates that we use, my instructional design team created. And I think to get to this templates, I will need to stop sharing for a second. Because it's in our LMS. All right. Here's the first one. This one, we have all kinds of different templates. I'm just showing you. Can you let me know if you can see, thumbs up? You can see the template, right?
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. So these templates are based on TILT, if you're familiar with what TILT, but if you're not familiar, it's okay. They're based on the backward course design approach. So quality matters if you're familiar with quality matters. So And we're using Canvas, but this templates would work for all LMSs, obviously. And by the way, if you are using Canvas and would like to get those templates, we share them on Canvas Commons. I believe that the moderator shared 2 links in the chat in the beginning. So one link is to our YouTube channel, the Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence at Columbia Basin College. We have a YouTube channel where we have a lot of resources. You will find tutorials on how to use these templates and steps, instructions, how you can get to Canvas Commons to import those templates into your Canvas courses. And we also have a LinkedIn page called CBC TLC. Again, the link is there. If you use LinkedIn, you can find us there. We're also sharing pretty much all kinds of resources that we create internally, but you can use them. They're free, they're open educational resource. Okay, back to templates. So this one is for discussion board activities. So so here you have this section, purpose. It's very important. The second one is outcomes. It's very important to tell your students what the purpose of any assignment is, including discussion board discussion activities. So maybe a couple of sentences stating that purpose, so it becomes very crystal clear why you're asking students to engage in this discussion, what's the purpose, and what's the alignment with the course, maybe 1 or 2 of your course outcomes. So that makes it very crystal clear to your students why it's important to participate in this discussion board activity and follow the instructions. So the instructions also, there's some examples. You don't have to have this text. You can have some, less text. This is just the templates. So, but for discussion board activities, what I think everybody knows is that students submit their posts at the last minute. If you give them a due date Wednesday, I don't know, 11 p.m., probably many students will submit on Wednesday by 10 p.m. And that wouldn't allow everyone to engage in that follow-up. That's why you would need to have 2 due dates. So the first one is for the initial post. For example, you can say the initial post is due on Monday at 11 p.m. And then the follow-up is due on Wednesday at 11 p.m. So that would give everyone 2 days to engage in a rich discussion, rich conversation on that. If you're also curious about how to create engaging discussion board activities for online hybrid classes, again, check out our YouTube channel. Because we have a dedicated webinar, the whole hour, all about discussion board activities and what you can do and different types of prompts. So the recording is there if you're curious. So another section is grading criteria, super important, super important. So whatever your grading criteria are, don't forget to put them in your template. And the last section, tips for success. Perhaps your discussion board activities, are different each week, or I don't know if you do them weekly or what you do, but some instructors do them weekly, some prefer to do them less frequently, and they have other assignments and engaging activities. But tips for success, if they're the same, you can repeat them, but just putting them in each template is going to be very, very important. So,
Ekaterina, can I just let you know that there's 5 minutes left in our session?
That is wonderful because I am done. I don't know how it happened, but I am. I wanted to show you one more template, but now you know where to find them. If you're using other learning management systems, well, it's okay. The concept is really the same. The design piece, yes, it's just for Canvas what we did. But the concept, like the purpose, the alignment with the outcomes, the grading criteria, and tips for success, you can easily recreate them using headings in your learning management system. So All right, so time for questions. I'm so happy to see that there's so many comments. There's just no way I can go through them. But I know it's a presentation style, but if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, that's great. That's okay with me. And even turn on your camera. I would love to see your faces. Okay, I'm saying great session. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes, the substantial challenge to sharing their stories then is how to help them believe each other's relationship. Yes, and that's why community building is important, because not everyone is comfortable sharing stories, personal stories. I get it. It's not something that everyone would be comfortable doing that, but you don't have to like say, oh, if you don't share your personal story, you're going to fail the assignment. You know, it's creating those opportunities for the students and inviting them to do that. But if someone is uncomfortable, that's okay. That's why creating assignments that may be like if they're working on case studies together as a group, they don't necessarily need to share personal stories, but they can bring the authentic experience. It's called authentic selves, their experiences, professional and personal, into those types of assignments without really sharing stories that are like really personal. Like I said, there are so many ways to incorporate culture responsive teaching beyond just stories and personal experiences. Ashley, hello. That's so amazing to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, it's so nice. Thank you so much for turning on your camera. There's no way I would be able to recognize you. It's amazing. Well, can I put you on the spot? You have literally 2 minutes to share your aha moment from this presentation or your personal strategy that aligns with culture responsive teaching. Here we go. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot.
Yes.
Some of my aha moments, because I've seen a version of this presentation previously from when we worked together. My aha is that these are not things that all faculty do and are inclined to do. And so in my role as an instructional designer, my new role as an instructional designer, I'm working on remembering that regularly and working on helping faculty to come to these sorts of strategies more naturally themselves. So yes, that was something that you revealed to me for sure.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Like I said, so happy to see you. I also see James. James, don't worry, I'm not putting you on the spot. James Wilkins, he is here. He is our amazing instructional designer. He was the one who created those templates. He's an instructional designer at CBC. He is the creator of the templates. So yes, you know where to find us, LinkedIn or YouTube. We have more information there about other topics, but also about the templates if you are interested. James created other amazing resources on more, there are different levels, like what I showed you, simple templates, but we have other templates that are a little bit more sophisticated. In the examples are there, it's all public, all open, so you can just go and take them. Alrighty, thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful to have this opportunity to share. Thank you.